Hi, welcome back to my channel, More Than RN. Today, I want to share how I take care of my indoor plants with my busy schedule as a nurse. Being a nurse with a hectic schedule doesn't leave me too much free time, but caring for my plants keeps me grounded and happy. Let me show you how I manage. Long hours at work, I had to figure out simple but effective ways to care for my indoor plants without spending hours on maintenance. This is how I take care of these beautiful indoor plants. First, I have to know my plants in order for me to take care of them. Some plants needs a lot of sunlight. Some plants need only not too much sunlight. But in this area, I have at least 6 hours of sunlight. So that's the number one tip that I could share, is to know the plant and what is the sunlight requirement. So now that my plants have enough sunlight to thrive, I have to make sure that my plants are watered. So I usually water them with the use of a 1-inch test. So I put my finger like this, and if it's moist 1 inch, I don't have to water them. If this is dry, 1 inch dry, I have to water them. One cause that will kill the plant is overwatering. Overwatering can kill the plant, and also it will attract flies. Next is, I have to make sure that the soil that I'm using on my plants are potting soil. Plants soil that are from the ground cannot be used in the pots. So I usually buy potting soil from the garden center. Every morning for a few minutes, and before I leave, I go and check my plants. I check them if they're looking good or not looking good. It just makes my day. So another tip is, if I see my plants like this, I usually trim them in a bad shape. I just prune them. In this case, look at this. I will just snip it. And another thing that I do with my plants, when I see things like this, I just remove them. So I just put this in the garbage. And you see this plant? If the plant doesn't get enough sunlight, like coleus, they become leggy. So this plant was leggy. It wasn't good, doesn't look good. It was so skinny and leggy. So what I did, I really pruned them hard. And you can see it produces a lot of younger shoots. So pruning is another thing that I do with my plants. And I usually snip the top of this with coleus because I don't want them to grow into seeds. So pruning is very important to make our plants healthy. You can see this. This is how also I propagate plants. These were from outside and it was getting too cold, and I really like this as a fall coleus. So what I did, I grabbed this empty glass container, and I just put them here. Then in spring, I can plant them outside. This is also another one that I stuck in here. This is another plant that I got somewhere else, and I had no chance to plant it in a soil. I just place it there. So that's one way of propagating. So that's another tip. I propagate my plants so that I don't have to buy. This was also from the outside garden. This is my, I don't know how you call it, photos? I'm not sure about the name. I usually Google the name because I cannot remember all of them. So this is another thing. I propagated it here and starting to get taller. So this is another plant that I propagated. And this plant is getting leggy. I can also trim that. I can trim this and I will just stick it in here. It's so easy to propagate. I just stick it in there. So these are more coleus that I propagated. I just place it in there and I have to start cleaning them also because these are fallen leaves of coleus. I bought coleus maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and after that I never buy another coleus because they are very easy to propagate and very easy to overwinter. This is how I take care of my anthurium. This was given to me 4 years ago, so I always clean this plant. And you can see there's already dead leaves or dead branches. So I usually remove them. And anthurium is an air purifier, meaning it collects all those particles from the air and into this plant, into the leaves. And the leaves like this needs to be clean because all the particles are all here stuck in the leaves. So this is my anthurium, and they like sunlight, and once they're done flowering I have to wait for several months and they will flower again. This plant, look at this. I'm going to trim that. It's almost going to root rot. So what I have to do here, I'm going to trim this. I'm going to cut this smaller. And this is my way of propagating it. I'm going to transfer this in a bigger pot in spring. And all I have to do is stick it here. It will just root. So sometimes when we see things like this, we have to do it right away because I'm too busy and I might forget it and the plant will just die. So when you see things like this and if you're so busy, it will take only how long? 2 minutes? And I just put them here because usually this will roots even not embedded in the soil. They will just root through the air. And that's based on my experience. So this one, I'll do the same thing. I'll just stick it in here and I know it will survive. So that's another thing that I do. When I see my plants like that, I take care of that right away. Or else the plant will just die. And I have to do some cleanup here. So you can see now, I know this will survive and I'm going to monitor this. Basically, because of my heavy schedule, I only maintain plants that I can maintain because I don't have enough time to care of them with my hectic schedule. I think I covered all the basic stuff. And also, one way of taking care of my plants, I usually clean the leaves like this. I remove this because this plant is an air purifier. They collect dust on the leaves. She's an orchid fertilizer, but it helps my plants. So I use this also, but this is optional. For me, plant really grows when the soil is good, they're water appropriately, and you have sunlight. Are the things that I do with my plants. That's why they're so healthy and they don't die. A coworker asked me to take care of this large plant that had been donated for the residents or patients to enjoy. When I checked the plant, I noticed the soil was extremely dry. The leaves were turning brown and that it had been placed in a corner that did not receive any sunlight. To help the plant recover, I watered it thoroughly, trimmed the dead branches, stake it to stand upright, and move it to a window where it could get the sunlight it needed. What do you think? Did I do a good job? The patients will be enjoying this big plant by the window. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing my office plants and pick up some helpful tips on how to care for yours. If you have any favorite plants or tips of your own, feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming content. See you in the next video and happy planting!